Natlan, what happened? That's the question I asked myself when I saw so many things go wrong in the most recent times. We will go over the patches from 5.0 to today. But before we will get into Natlan itself, we should probably go a little bit into the past, into Fontaine. That's where it all started. The first part of Fontaine wasn't anything extra, it was good experience what you would expect, but since second half it all went to nothingness. Let's just remember some of these controversies that were very noticeable during these updates. First of them could be their unsuccessful attempts to introduce artifact loadouts, new villain nerf, 3 years 3 pulls, and most notably, the Natlan controversy. So let's talk about that. What was it all about? Back during Sumeru, there were people who connected the dots between Natlan and Sumeru. But what happened in Sumeru? Sumeru was pretty okay, right? Well, not really. One of the reasons is that Sumeru as a nation is inspired by Middle East, and people from Middle East aren't exactly white, but instead the characters were the same color as people in Inazuma, Liyue, or Mondstadt or Fontaine. It really didn't change a lot. But why is it different from Natlan? Back during Sumeru, there wasn't any trailer that showcased all the characters. Instead, the whole crew that is going to be playable was leaked. And because of that, Hoyoverse any complaints about characters didn't really take seriously because it is kinda silly to complain about leaks. Maybe that was also the reason why since Fontaine we got those character trailers that showcased the characters we are going to have in that nation. But people hope that Hoyoverse wouldn't make the same mistake twice, that they would learn and that they will make proper changes for a nation that is inspired by Africa, Central and South America. After all, they use their music, so why not their characters as well? And they use appropriate music quite a lot. But when it comes to skin, it is a kind of different story. And since it all fell flat and nothing changed, a lot of people started boycotting the company and started calling it racist. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what will Natlan be like. However, as the time went on, a lot of people who weren't as dedicated to the boycott itself stopped caring about it because they were hyped and they wanted to see what the Nation of War has in store for us. What is it all about? And as more trailers and teasers released, we saw quite a significant amount of quality of life changes, cool characters, and improvements to the game, including free 5-star selector for standard characters, which, let's be honest, is long overdue. Another thing is the option to craft artifact of your choice with 2 substats of your choice, which also had its flaws, but more on that a little bit later. Ever since Inazuma, all nations were just better and better. They were improving on the game, the Archon quests were more engaging, the story was much more fluid. After all, Inazuma was still not really that good, but when it comes to Sumeru and Fontaine, those were one of the best quests we had in the game. So Natlan has to be much better, right? Or is it a step back? Let's take a look. As usual, the launch of any nation is without flaws at first. Then, once they will go through the game, play through the story and so on, there will be some issues that players will find out about. First of them is the Artifact Transmuter. This tool allows you to create artifacts of your own choice, the set, the main stat and 2 substats. Although it is quite limited with the amount you can create per patch. Usually it will be like 1. To use it, you have to use these elixirs, which you can get by exploring in Natlan, filling your paid battle pass, doing certain events or use your worst leveled artifacts as a fuel for it. But in the end, you might be screwed by this system thanks to RNG, and your last elemental goblet for your Mavuika or whoever it is with double cat will get upgraded defense instead. However, as I am recording this video, we already know about improvements to this system. During patch 5.5, at least 2 upgrades will be to the substats the player chooses, which makes the system at least somewhat usable and not complete scam. The world, including the Archon quest, was decent, although there have been some elements which made it worse. In terms of the nation itself, the introduction of Saurians as dragons was, in my eyes, lackluster, and did not fill the theme of Nation of War. When it comes to Archon quest itself, there were two things that made it worse. First of them was Kachina and her constant whining during the first half of the Archon quest. And the second one was much more severe to the whole premise of Natlan. But what is it? It is the most crucial ceremony on which Natlan stands, and that is Ode to Resurrection. Let me explain how it works. People from Natlan who have something of worth are given ancient name of a previous hero and inherit its name. This is given by their deity known as Wire. This entity resides inside Night Kingdom. Natlanese with ancient name fight against each other during pilgrimage, where they show their worth and again attend war against the Abyss inside the Night Kingdom. Now, what is the problem here? It lies within the ceremony itself, which in its sense makes sure that the heroes of Natlan never die, because if at least one of them survives, then all of them can be resurrected. This revelation kills any impact, seriousness and expectations player had from the Nation of War. What is war without deaths after all? Just let's take a look at Soul series. What would it be without characters dying? It would feel empty, hollow and soulless, just like it felt after 5.0 story. Hoyoverse dislikes killing their characters for good in any of their games, although they had opportunities to do so. Nation of War did not fulfill its expectations that were set before venturing into Natlan, which isn't the first time something like this happened inside this nation. But this is just the beginning. Now it all starts to rolling. Patch 5.1 entered in an underwhelming fashion. During this patch, voices of certain characters could not be heard due to ongoing strike of voice actors. This strike wanted to ensure that the voices of those actors are protected from AI. The issue lies with Formosa Interactive Studio, which does not ensure safety against AI for voice actors voicing within Genshin Impact. From what I've heard, there is solution on the way, as Hoyoverse decided to change the studios from Formosa to Sai. During this patch it was especially problematic due to major story event which took place in Sumeru, as Nahida's birthday was celebrated. Unfortunately, due to strike, only Sino and Scaramouche alongside Paimon were voiced. But if Genshin had a system that allows replayability of the story events, then this wouldn't be a severe issue. Another larger issue at hand is character design. In previous patch, it was not as problematic as since 5.1. But what am I talking about? It is the way playable characters within this nation are portrayed. Natlan is a harsh land where people are trying to survive from each abyss incursion. They are living in tents and tree houses. People of Natlan live simple life in that regard. But then there are some characters that just destroy this immersion. The only one that fits so far is Ian-san. Her clothes and accessories told us what kind of nation Natlan is. She was after all our first Natlan character we saw. But yet she isn't playable, so we don't know if somehow she will use chainsaw or some other ridiculous weapon. Shilonen, Chaska and Mavuika, to some degree even Kachina and Kinich fall into this category. Even though Drill and Pixelated Dragons are not the most typical weapons, they still feel odd when others use simple swords and bows. Shilonen, Chaska and Mavuika are on different level, because there is no way we could expect their weapon. Maybe for Mavuika due to her suit, but other than that, not really. Shilonen in 2000's outfit with roller skates and DJ stand, Chaska with her huge ass cannon that can blast anything, and of course her ridiculous pants, and finally Mavuika with her motorcycle. Motorcycle without roads to drive on while being able to fly and drive over water. Even if this advanced tech is justified by the lore, it does not make too much sense, because it stands out in much greater fashion than anything else. Sumeru had AI, Fontaine robots, and we had rain guards from release, but all of that was justified by the lore and surroundings. Sumeru is harbor for knowledge, so it would kinda make a good fit for something like internet and AI, while looking like it fits into that world. Meanwhile, Fontaine was the most advanced nation, but Natlan feels like pulling out iPhone among cavemen. It feels more immersion breaking than anything we ever saw within the game itself. For the whole duration of 2024, we saw just one limited 5-star male character released, and that was Kinich. It is the least amount of 5-star male characters we have seen in 1 year since launch of the game. Although the game never had great balance between both genders, but at least it offered good amount for all kinds of players. But now it feels like Hoyoverse seemingly found out that female characters are more profitable, which according to popularity polls and banners is not the case. The most contentious character in Natlan between being 4-star or 5-star has become Ororon. He became favored due to his interesting dynamic with Citlali and as a mediator to Fatui before it was revealed what are the reasons for Capitano's appearance in Natlan, alongside Ororon's appearance, which is very unique among Natlan cast. A lot of people wished he would be 5-star character due to these reasons, but instead he was shown as a 4-star. This angered people because of another 2 reasons. One of them is that sometimes it is more difficult to get 4-star character than 5-star due to RNG. This is not Kuro games, who allow you to buy the new 4-star for like 2 months or so after its release. The second one is that the banners on which he appeared weren't compelling. Chaska and Lini are much less favored than Zhongli and Nuvilat, who were in the second phase of that patch. Citlali appeared in the same patch as Ororon, although playable a bit later. Just like with him, people liked her dynamic with Ororon, which was one of the more favorite things around her character. But due to story event in 5.2, her reputation was kinda destroyed. But what happened? There was this dialogue option, which for male traveler players was much different than for female traveler players. But why is that such a big fuss? Well, Citlali's character is built around having tougher skin when it comes to relationships, and that she tries to take distance from people. And seeing her having crush on Traveler, whom she just recently met, kinda breaks her character. There have been people who compare this to Jet and Traveler, where something similar happens to female travelers after a long quest chain in Sumeru Desert, where they spend some time working together and thus making a bond between each other. Another thing that did not help Citlali, not even a bit, was her trip marketing. People started calling her waifu bait, very similar to Firefly in Honkai Star Rail. Although Citlali was shown to us as a very introverted character who likes spending time alone without any disruptions in her home. For that particular reason, this pose she was introduced by makes in my eyes total sense. Mavuika is the true elephant in the room. Even though her motorcycle is the largest of her issues, there is still more to talk about. We were told that Mavuika is human Archon like any other Pyro Archon, but the issue lies that she feels the least human of all other Archons. What made other Archons that we already met so good is that even though they were not human, they felt that way. All of them had significant flaws, which made them interesting. Mavuika is the Merisu type of character, who knows and can do anything and everything. She doesn't feel flawed in any shape or form. Another larger issue is her design. Even though the biker suit obviously does not feel like it fits Natlan alongside the bike itself, but they had a suit that works perfectly, and that was in animated short from 500 years ago. This suit describes Natlan well. It shows this is Natlan, but instead they decided to not go with it, which is the unfortunate part. And lastly, we have her gameplay role. Ever since 1.0, Xiangling stood as a queen of pyro of field damage, and Bennett as the supreme buffer. People expected Mavuika to fill one of these roles or maybe both, but instead we got such a ridiculous new main DPS that just clears anything. We already have plenty of pyro main DPSs, so I wonder why Mavuika was added to this as well. It feels like she would better fill the other roles instead. Fatui led by Capitano have been amazing addition to the fight between Natlan and the Abyss. It expanded on the whole idea of who are Fatui. Capitano himself was the most fleshed out character inside Natlan. All other characters were just about Natlan, and we don't know what separates them or makes them that unique, as all of Natlan was just about Natlan. not about the characters living inside Natlan, like it was during Fontaine, where we learned what makes Navia, Nuvilet or Furina unique. Even though the second part of Natlan Archon Quest was really good, as it finally showcased the war in its entirety in a really innovative way for Genshin. The last part felt underwhelming only thanks to Capitano. It was salvaged. After he sacrificed, a lot of players wanted to see him being playable, but considering that this sacrifice is pretty similar to what happened with Arthas Menethil at the end of Warcraft 3, I would assume that he will be back sooner than later. During patch 5.3, Mavuika and Citlali were announced, and they were pushed into the first phase of that patch. Meanwhile, all rewards for Lantern Rite were pushed into second phase of that patch. This is the first time Hoyoverse tried something like this. Every single Lantern Rite before had rewards being used for both phases of the patch, either it being couple days or more. This predatory tactic might spread into other Hoyoverse games as well, but considering that in Zenless they were able to have same banners for a whole patch, it kinda boggles my mind why they did not do that with these two, considering that both are really strong and well synergized with each other. Although there have been theory, which I'm not sure how relevant is, but it is about Citlali and why was she in the first phase. Citlali has great connection with Night Kingdom and thus the death inside Natlan itself. Chinese New Year disapproves any word of loss, death or illness, otherwise the rest of the year will be along those lines, which might be the reason why Citlali was pushed so heavily into the first phase. This is also the reason why Hu Tao will never have banner during this time of year. Recently unannounced Hoyoverse Layoffs took place in Genshin global team. I've seen multiple ideas why they were happening. First of them was that Hoyoverse is trying to push more for AI. Another one is poor job of translation and marketing, where some words were mistranslated and drip marketing was delayed, and because of that leaks were so prevalent on the days of supposed drip marketing. But in general we cannot know what exactly is going on, and this is just a shallow idea of my research of what I found that could be the case. And lastly we have Federal Trade Commission fine for Hoyoverse. FTC fined Genshin for pushing gambling for children and collecting data from children below 13 years old. Their reasoning is that Genshin uses at its forefront characters such as Paimon, Klee, Chi-Chi and Diona. They fined them for $20 million, which for Hoyoverse isn't too much, but at the same time FTC wanted to put some adjustments to the monetization of Genshin, so that kids wouldn't be as exploited, consent of parents when buying things, and of course no collection of data from kids below 13 years old. It is interesting that this fine came around with TikTok ban, which was supposed to happen a week ago, but was delayed. Considering that FIFA might be even worse case than Genshin in terms of its way in exploiting its players. As mentioned, this might be severe for Genshin. Reason for that is that China government tried to put laws that prevent exploiting children, and this resulted in like 16% stock decrease for Tencent, and thus had large impact on economics of China. Because of that, they had to revert it. There might be some severe push against gacha games, considering that this might be the first step. Considering that these games are entering normal gamer scene and are becoming more and more popular. Their push is needed, especially because their monetization is the worst on the market, I would say. 50-50 is terrible system that pushes players to spend money if they don't want to spend their time. It feels like this amount of controversies would span across a whole year and not just 4 months or so. I will keep monitoring what bad goes in Natlan and will keep you up to date when something bad happens with another video, of course. And with that being said, you have my great thank you if you came to this part of the video. And I'd like to just say, if you like this type of content, let me know by subscribing to this channel. All things considered, I will try to keep the content as fresh and as good as possible. And with that being said, thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.